Um, as always, my pleasure to be here with you guys and be part of this service and consult with Karen as I do whenever we're together. We kind of came up with a few songs. The first one I'm going to do is actually one that she taught me. I usually end up teaching people songs, but this one Karen told me about. I never heard before. I did it with her one evening and said, "Wow, it's one of the great tunes. Really beautiful, beautiful song." It's called "Summer Night." So that's what we're going to start with, even though it's summer morning still. That's kind of a lively summer night. Thank you.
Karen got me thinking about co-creation. So co-creation is something I do with spirit and with my community. Co-creation is what I do with my mind, my hands, my feet, and my spirit. Co-creation can change the world, one step at a time, one moment in time. and one thing over time. So I ask myself, what am I co-creating today in this moment? And so it is. And now from Wayne.
Thanks, Kathie. So Karen is speaking about a number of things. Of course, prosperity is one. I'm going to address that a little bit later. But with this first vocal tune I'm going to do today, I'm going to talk about the what's considered the last weekend of summer, and what most people do, and what we would probably all be doing if we could, which is enjoy the beautiful weather at the beach, going out to the beach and enjoying the water. And this is, as you know, my love for bossa nova music, and of course they love the beach and bossa nova music because Rio de Janeiro's got one of the great beaches in the world. And this song was written by a guy named Roberto Menescal and his partner Ronaldo Boscoli. English and in Portuguese, it's called My Little Boat. My little boat is like a note bouncing merrily along. Hear it splashing up a song. The sails are white, the sky is bright, heading out into the blue with a crew of only two, where we could share the salty air on a little paradise that's afloat. Not a care have we in my little boat. The wind is still, we feel the thrill of a voyage heaven bound, though we only drift around, warmed by the sun, two hearts as one, beating with enchanted bliss, something in each other's kiss. When daylight ends and slyly sends little stars that twinkle brightly above, it's goodbye to my little boat of love. Dia de luz, festa de sol, e barquinho deslizar no mecioso do mar. Tudo verão e amor se faz num barquinho pelo mar que desliza sem parar. Sem intenção, não só cansar, vai saindo desse mar o sol. Beijo mar, que luz, dias tão azuis. Volta do mar, desmaia o sol, e barquinho este está, e vontade de contar. Céu tão azul e astro sul, e o barquinho coração deslizando na canção. Tudo isso paz, tudo isso traz uma calma de verão e então o barquinho vai, a tardinho sai. O barquinho vai, a tardinha cai. Little boat of mine, little boat of mine, little boat of mine. Ba-dum doo 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 da da ya doo dum doo jack boom ding boom ding a chick boom ding boom bum bum ba doo ba da ba boom. Thank you.
That was nice, Wayne. I haven't heard you sing that. That was
Those
nice.
words are hard, man.
I know, that sounded hard. That was good. That was good. And hi, everybody. So happy to be with you today. You know what? One of the things I have managed to do this summer, and it's been part of what's made it a nice summer for me, is I have been going to the beach, but not in the traditional way of actually getting a place at the beach and staying for several days. I've been driving out there and just spending like half a day. I leave early in the morning, stay for a few hours once I'm there. It's lovely. And then I drive home, stop at the farm stand, buy some corn and watermelon. The last time I got there at about 8, because I woke up super early and I just drove on out there, and I was the first one on the beach. And I put my blanket down. I actually take a thermos of coffee with me and a book, and I have really enjoyed it. And I've been living in this area for so many years, and it's never dawned on me to do a half-day trip to the beach. But, you know, I lost my job in June, so I didn't have quite enough to do, and pandemic, so I wasn't going to do a usual kind of vacation. I actually enjoyed it so much, and yet I felt a little self-conscious sometimes if I would be talking to a sister or a friend who'd been working all day and say, yeah, I went to the beach again today. I felt a little indulgent, like I needed to justify, well, hey, I'm unemployed, I don't have enough to do. But, you know, isn't that a little odd? Like, why would I feel like I need to justify doing something fun? It wasn't coming from anybody else. It was only coming from me feeling self-conscious about being nice to myself like that. So during my time at the beach, I do some swimming. I've seen dolphins every single time. And the last time, they were really playful. They came close to the shore. I don't know if it was because I was there so early, but they were jumping out of the water high. So I was seeing their whole body out of the water. It just makes you feel so good. I also do a lot of reading while I'm at the beach, and how original. And so book I've been reading lately, can you see this? It is called The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity by Katherine Ponder. So early in her book, she addresses what she calls the shocking truth about prosperity. And that is the fact that a lot of people are resistant to prosperity. The shocking truth that she is sharing really, though, is that prosperity is a natural, spiritual, uplifted state of being. But we tend to be reluctant to admit that we want it, even to ourselves. We don't want to admit it. Our attitude about money really ties us up. It really ties us up. Nobody actually wants less money. Even if we have plenty and our needs are fully met, I mean, of course, we would all welcome having more to save and share. And yet money is one of those things that we talk about in hushed tones. I want to give you one example, illustration by comparison. First of all, okay, there's a very nice guy, a piano player in DC. It's not Wayne, it's another guy. Very good guy. And here's what he does at the end of the gig when it's time to pay the players. He has your check all written out for you, and it's folded up small in his hand. And he just kind of very discreetly passes his hand really close to your hand. And then the check makes its way into your hand and nobody knows it happened. Kind of like a drug deal, right? So it's very sneaky. I have this feeling that the universe is saying like, oh, wow, Peter's very uncomfortable about money. So let's not annoy him by giving him too much of it. And from what I've observed, he doesn't have too much of it. Now contrast that with a friend of mine who teaches classes on wellness and well-being. So in his living room, there will be like 20 of us sitting around, and we're there to learn and listen and grow. And at some point during the class, we're supposed to put our cash or our check on the table next to the speaker's chair. We just set it there. There's no basket. There's no piggy bank to stick it in. We just put it there on the pile. And at the end of the night, we're all heading out, saying our goodbyes, and there's a little pile of money there for the speaker. And he told us once that he does it that way to help people feel good about money, to stop hiding the fact that there's an exchange of money for goods, an exchange of money for service. So that's just an example of two guys who are terrific guys. One is a jazz musician, one is a minister. The common wisdom is that you don't really go into either one of those fields in order to make a ton of money, but one of them does. It is part of our culture to want to shy away from wanting money and admitting it. And I use myself right now as an example, because this book, The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity, It has been on my shelf for 10 or 15 years. You might notice and recognize the little sticker, the 50% off sticker. I bought this on the 50% off table at Borders. Okay, and I bought it. I don't know why I thought I might want to read something about prosperity, but I thought I might, and I brought it home and I put it on a bookshelf, and I've moved a couple times since then, and I had not opened it. I think I felt like, no, I shouldn't waste my time. I should be reading about spiritual things, not prosperity. This is a big fat book about prosperity. I can surely do more noble things with my time than that. So I never picked it up. I thought it would be too shallow. And you know what? I didn't even realize that Katherine Ponder, the author of this book, Katherine Ponder, is a Unity minister. I just knew that she writes about prosperity. I didn't know until this summer when I picked it up, but she is 93 years old. She lives in California, and she's a Unity minister. So the book was published in 1962, and as you read it, it's a little bit dated, but still valuable. Like me, I was born in 1962, a little dated, but still something to offer, okay? So another prosperity resource that I checked out is that movie, The Secret. Remember that movie, The Secret? So my attitude about that movie, The Secret, is to be a little bit annoyed about it. But I decided to watch it again because it's very well known, and so it's kind of part of prosperity awareness. And it has some good points, and some really smart people participated in it, but I find it to be just overwhelmed by the corniness. Corny, like a woman gazing longingly at a jewel necklace in a store window, and then the next thing you know, some guy is putting a jewel necklace around her neck, as though that's like some great spiritual principle. Anyway, so, but then of course, much worse than that corny stuff is what are often called prosperity ministries, where they really coax and cajole to get their members to donate everything they have so that the leadership can live the high life. And that's just a horrible situation. And these are the kinds of things that make prosperity ministry so unappealing. But you know, let's not get burdened by all that. Let's be unity. So I was surprised to realize that Katherine Ponder is a Unity minister, but once I'm reading it, I'm like, of course she's a Unity minister. What do we believe? We are one with God. We inherit from the divine, unlimited estate of God. We're children of God, one with God, and God is the omnipresence. And it's there for us. In Unity, we believe in natural spiritual laws and lessons. And we base our lives and our practice on the 5 basic principles. Number 3 being, we are co-creators with God, creating our reality through thoughts held in mind, as Cheryl so beautifully discussed last Sunday in our service. And I know we don't just believe those things on Sunday mornings. Prosperity principles they're not just a way to enrich ourselves, they're a way to affirm the truth. To affirm the truth and to bring ourselves more in alignment with our true identity as children of the infinite source. Now, an important caveat, of course, if we're wanting to have prosperity at the expense of somebody else, that's not true prosperity. That's not unity thinking at all. And that is part of what makes it an uncomfortable topic, the idea that we're being selfish. And then when we start thinking that, then we start getting like, there are these little ugly monsters of guilt and shame that come up to us. And you know what you need to do then? You make a silly, scary face and you scare it away, and you just don't even allow it into your consciousness, because your consciousness is your key to life. You got to be in charge of it. Don't let those interlopers mess up what you're doing with your consciousness. Oh, and what else? The idea that we're being materialistic, realizing that prosperity is about material wealth, and it should be. It should be about money. It should be about the beauty of our physical surroundings, but it is about so much more. Health, wealth, relationship, love, happiness, pep in our step, friends at the door, money in the bank, all of this, all of what makes life good. This is true prosperity. So the book has a whole lot of affirmations, hundreds of them, and I love them. I was marking them all up. And I'm going to send some to Jan after the service, and she's going to share them with everybody in case you want to look at them some more. Just a small selection because there's so many in there. But let's start with this one, and it's a little bit long. I am an irresistible magnet with the power to attract unto myself everything I divinely desire according to the thoughts, feelings, and mental pictures I constantly entertain and radiate. I am the center of my universe. I have the power to create whatever I wish. I attract whatever I radiate. I attract whatever I mentally choose and accept. I begin choosing and mentally accepting the highest and best in life. I now choose and accept health, success, and happiness. I now choose lavish abundance for myself and for all humanity. This is a rich, friendly universe, and I dare to accept its riches and its hospitality and to enjoy them now. So that is one big mega affirmation. But you know, I wanted to make the point. This is not about baby steps. If we are not experiencing lavish abundance right now, then let's get ready. We've waited too long already, right? It is for us to enjoy, to receive, to open to as much as we could possibly get comfortable with. And then to start practicing getting comfortable with even more. Katherine Ponder is passionate about the fact that poverty is not a virtue, right? Poverty is not a virtue. You know, Charles Fillmore, our own founder, said that poverty is a sin. A sin. And I know that sounds kind of harsh if you think of a sin as a condemnation, if you think that that's what that means, then that would be a really cruel thing to put on somebody who's experiencing lack and deprivation. But in Unity, we understand words metaphysically, you know, these spiritual concept words. And sin means missing the mark. It means, you know, going astray, going apart from God. I think of how the Latin word sine, S-I-N-E, means without. Because that's what sin means. It means being without that God connection. And when we recognize sin in that way, in this unity way, then if we're looking at somebody in a state of poverty, in a state of sin, we see them not with condemnation, but with compassion. Nobody deliberately refuses more of God's blessings, but we speak the language that we were born into, and there's so much programming, so much language of struggle and sacrifice, and sometimes saintly martyrdom. We absorb it. In truth, prosperity is spiritual. It is all of life's abundance. In Charles Fillmore's The Revealing Word, he defines prosperity like this: the consciousness of God as the abundant, everywhere present resource, unfailing, ready for all who open themselves to it through faith. Katherine Ponder has lots of laws of prosperity, the dynamic laws of prosperity. So I've chosen to share four of them with you today. First of all, the creative law of prosperity, which basically is the third unity principle. We are co-creators with God, creating our reality through thoughts held in mind. What we can conceive, we can achieve. Emily Cady says, desire is God tapping at the door of your mind, trying to give you greater good. The creative law starts with desire. So unleash the imagination. Ponder tells us to get very clear in our desires, write them down, fine-tune them as they evolve and become clearer in our imagination, write them again and again in order to stay focused on them. See, I have all these little colorful, cute little blank books, and I wish that we were in person, because then I would give you all one, and then you could write your affirmations and your desires, and then they would come true. But they'll come true. You can just find your own notepad or something, okay? Prosperity is a planned result. You don't want to just sit back and wonder, hope it happens. It is a planned result. So take the activity and remember the source of good. God is the cause. Prosperity is the effect. Cause and effect. God is the cause. Focus on the cause. Seek first the kingdom. Work with an affirmation that feels really good to you. This is the way to create. By affirming, by stating, by defining the outcome you're looking for. So I could say the affirmation, my bank account contains $1 billion. But that would make me feel like a fraud. So I'm not going to say that, because then I wouldn't be vibrating with really good energy. Instead, I can say, I have faith that all that is mine by divine plan now comes to me easily and in rich abundance. All that is mine comes to me easily and in rich abundance. I can say that, and I can feel good when I say that. You know, you kind of got to practice. Part of the creative law is you got to practice feeling good, because what you are feeling is what you will attract. And there are a few things I do, especially when I had been through a serious period of unemployment a while back, and I just couldn't get through every day feeling poor every hour. It hurt. It was feeling bad. But there were a couple of things I could do that always made me feel like I had plenty in my life. One was to fill up my car with gas, because I have that cute little feature. When I fill up the tank, it says 474 miles, whatever, like however many miles I can get. And I would just get in my car and I would be like, man, I can go wherever I want. So I started to always fill up my gas tank when it would get to halfway, because I didn't want to have that feeling of like, oh my God, I'm almost out, I'm almost out, I'm almost out. When it's way down low, just start filling it up, keeping it always at halfway or above. I would do that. Also, we used to have washer dryers in my apartments where you needed to use quarters. And I would go to the bank and buy $100 worth of quarters. I always said that I was going to use it to hit somebody, but I never once hit anybody with my quarters. I would use them in a little tub, and then I always had so many quarters, and I felt like I could just do as much laundry as I wanted. And then my neighbors would come to me for quarters, and that to me was such a good feeling, because I never had to be like, oh man, I got to do laundry, but I only have 5 quarters. Oh, I don't have enough. So I just wanted to keep giving myself that experience. You know what else does it since I became a mom? Going to the grocery store, because when I put food in my refrigerator and I know I can feed my kid, I feel like I've got everything I need. So you can find them for yourself, the things that make you feel like, yeah, I got it going on. I've got what I need. I need nothing. I've got it all. That gives you that creative energy. So just choose that for yourself. Choose that for yourself, the one that works for you. Second law that I want to go over is the vacuum law of prosperity. Nature abhors a vacuum, right? So if you create a vacuum, something's going to come fill it in, and we're going to be really careful about what fills it in. But first, you got to create that vacuum. That means getting rid of stuff you don't need. That means dropping habits that aren't really good. That means maybe severing relationships that aren't really supporting you, so that it makes room for something else. It's just dropping habits of thought sometimes. Creating that space. This is how you generate flow. This is how you generate flow, by opening up some space. Now, the practice of release, which is what this is, it includes forgiveness. Forgiveness is the greatest release. And Emmett Fox, in his own prosperity teachings, tells us that if things aren't going well in your life, if your efforts just aren't really panning out, chances are good it's because you're holding a grievance against somebody. Who else said it? Jesus said, if you're going to see God, if you're going to the altar, and you recognize as you're on your way to the altar, you recognize, I really am mad at so-and-so, or I really did offend so-and-so, and they're mad at me. Whatever it is, if there's some kind of a grudge between you and somebody, put down the gift you're taking to the altar, go to that person, work it out. When it's resolved, then you're ready to go to the altar. You've got to work that out, because harboring a grievance is holding that space, holding that energy, and nothing good can flow into that space. And remember, forgiveness is not a big, grand gesture. Forgiveness is a return to normal. You were not born bitter. You were born peaceful. Return to that. Don't let somebody else take that away from you. If somebody is occupying your consciousness and you feel bitter, and maybe you're not even in touch with that person anymore, but you can find the benefit of just forgiving in yourself, just forgiving. And then sometimes that's really, really, really hard to do. And you know what you can do? It doesn't even require great skill on our part. You just say a prayer of love and send it to that person. You can do that. You don't have to figure out whether or not that person deserves it. You just do it. Even if it is the most troublemaking person to ever live at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. You just send love. I don't know what else would work. Voting, vote. Do those two things, love and vote. All right, a third law of prosperity is one that she calls the ancient law of prosperity, and it's tithing. It's tithing. As we affirm here every week, giving and receiving are one energy flow. Giving and receiving are one energy flow. In the early editions of this book, the chapter on tithing was left out because the editors thought, no. People are uncomfortable about that. People are uncomfortable about that. But eventually it made it into the book. And there it is. Now, Ponder is a proponent of the 10% tithe, but she definitely allows that any tithing of funds or giving of voluntary service is a lot better than none. She warns, though, this is very important for her, she warns that inconsistent, kind of haphazard giving, just here and there, won't catalyze the flow. It needs to be systematic. 10% or whatever it is, it needs to be systematic. That's what she says. And then the last law that I'm going to review today is the imaging law of prosperity, which is basically visualization, is the word that I'm more familiar with. Now, your spiritual inner self only has concepts of plenty and good. So if you recognize that you are kind of preoccupied with lack and limitation, then it means you're not really in touch with and in tune with your spiritual inner self, because your spiritual inner self knows better. So we got to course correct, because it does happen. It does happen that we get off track and we think from our very limited human material selves, and we feel limited. We course correct. Otherwise, what you're doing is resonating, vibrating with a fiction based on the story we've heard our whole life that there's not enough. There's not enough for you. There's not enough. Oh, that is a fiction. So don't hang out with that. Instead, we practice and realize the omnipresence. Remember from Emily Cady? That's how you seek the kingdom. Practice and realize the omnipresence. You got to feel. You've got to feel, sense that all of God's good is there for you. At times, I have felt like that's a really vague direction. Practice the presence. Practice the omnipresence. So let's sit with that for a minute. What does it mean to practice the presence? All right, let's say this. You have had the experience of sitting in a room reading, maybe, for example, and somebody else is in the room with you, and maybe that person is also reading or knitting or crocheting or whatever. And you feel that person's presence. Even if you're not talking, you're not looking at each other, you're aware of the person, and maybe you're really enjoying that person's company. This is the kind of thing that this inner sense awareness that can really bother you if you're not with the right person. You just sense their presence all the time. But hopefully you are with the right person. And this is part of what makes a home, because you just feel them there, and it's wonderful. Now, for me, when I'm lying in bed at night, I am aware that Dorothy is in her room next door, and I feel her company. I feel her there, and that's wonderful. Now, there are nights when I'm lying in my bed and she's not there. She's at her dad's house, and that feels different. And it's fine. I'm fine. I know she's fine. But I'm home alone, and I feel the difference. When she's at my place, I can feel her presence. But when she's not at my place, I'm home alone. But I found out that if I want to, I can conjure that same feeling. I can conjure that same awareness. I still have my daughter. I still love my daughter. And I can just imagine deliberately that sense of having her there. That's how I can practice her presence. And it's not hard. It's love. It's love that I'm feeling. And when we think of practicing the presence of spirit, it really can be done. Do you know that if I'm lying in bed at night and I'm having trouble falling asleep, sometimes I'll just say, okay, Jesus, let's hang out. Because then I'll realize, oh yeah, I didn't spend any time there today. Maybe that's why I'm not sleeping yet, because I'm supposed to spend a little time in the companionship of my God self, of my brother in Christ. So there's just one more thing I want to share with you before our meditation, and that is that prosperity is mostly about mindset. Everything I've talked about today is about our state of mind, but it's also about activity. So what I want to share is, and this is not a Katherine Ponder law, this is a Reverend Jim Webb teaching. Say you want to win the lottery, all right? There's a prosperity idea for you, win the lottery. You can pray that you're going to win the lottery, and you can meditate on that feeling of abundance in your life. You can visualize your bank statement with a really big number in it and affirm that just the right numbers that you need to play the lottery are going to just arrive at your consciousness. Do all that, but it will not matter if you don't buy the ticket. You got to buy the ticket. So our spiritual activity and our physical activity work together for our good. We can't just leave any part of it out. I got to tell him that I told you that, because I heard that from him like 20 years ago, and I thought it was so good. You got to buy the ticket. So everybody, this week I am hoping to go to the beach again. I don't go very often anymore because I am no longer unemployed. I got a job that I love. I lost my job in June. You know why? Because getting laid off is the universe's way of telling you that you are supposed to be somewhere else. And it was a good job that I lost. But where I am now is perfect, way better. And it does allow me a little bit of time for a half-day trip to the beach. That is prosperity. So, anybody want to meditate with me now? Oh, Helen's asking me what beach I go to. Yeah, I'm glad you asked. This summer I've been going to Cape Henlopen State Park. Not crowded at all, especially if you go in the morning. I love it. In Delaware, Cape Henlopen State Park. I love it. Ready for meditation? Okay. Bring to yourself all the comfort. Feel at the bottom of your feet, your toes, your ankles, feel a smile that comes up. Rooted in the earth that supports you, and it just comes up and fills your whole body. You are filled with that smile. You are filled with that smile of contentment, of comfort, of confidence. You breathe fully and naturally. Take a few breaths. You might choose, if you choose, to envision yourself at a very peaceful spot. Maybe just right where you are. Maybe the beach or the patio or the passenger seat on the way to a vacation. The main point is you don't have to do anything right now but be here. And affirm with me. I move through this day knowing that God is everywhere present and realizing that I am the owner of my life. I am the co-creator of my moments, my hours, and my days. God is my source, and my consciousness of God is my supply. Divine order is now established and maintained in my life. God opens up ways where there seems to be no way. I celebrate this fact and I am grateful. I am now deliberately and joyously radiating divine love to myself, my world, and all humanity. My talents are many. I am divinely equipped to accomplish great things with ease. My words are charged with prospering power. In this moment, I ask for what I need, knowing that God responds throughout the day. I take in these truth statements. I affirm these truth statements. I absorb these truth statements. God is with me, and as fully as I am supported in the chair where I'm sitting, I know I am supported on this planet and in my life. I see evidence of this. I behold and I enjoy and I appreciate all the evidence that I see. I find that my gaze is a little higher throughout the day. I lift up my eyes and all that I behold is there for me. Now, beloveds, just inflate yourself with these positive affirmations. Take a gentle breath or two. Taking good care of yourself. And then we'll come back to our space together, our Zoom call. You might want to reground yourself by touching all your fingers one at a time to your thumbs. Tap, 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 tap. And gently open your eyes. See how beautiful the world is around you. See the faces of the friends who love you. Hear the voice of me who loves you. Smile. Got you smiling. And here we go. Here we go. That wraps it up for me. What's next?
So when Karen told me that we were going to be talking about prosperity, and there, of course, we now discovered all the very different kinds of prosperity one can understand that they possess. I thought immediately of this particular song, which was written by our district's own Duke Ellington. It's really one of my favorite songs. It's got a lot of blues influence in it, which always appeals to me. And but it's not about the blues. It's about the opposite. It's about understanding the joys about life, no matter what else is going on. That there are joys and you have prosperity no matter where your situation is and what you're doing, as long as you understand that you're loved, you understand that the world is a place that wants you in it. So this is called I'm Just a Lucky So-and-So. When I walk down the street, seems everyone I meet gives me a friendly hello. I guess I'm just a lucky so and so. The birds in every tree, they sing so merrily. They sing wherever I go. I guess I'm just a lucky so and so. If you should ask me the amount in my bank account, I've got to confess that it's slipping. That don't bother me, 'cause confidentially I've got a dream that is pippin'. And when the day is through, each night I hurry to a home where love waits, I know. I guess I'm just a lucky so and so. If you should ask me the amount in my bank account, I got to admit that it's slipping. That don't worry me, 'cause confidentially I've got a dream that's pippin'. And when the day is through, each home I hurry to, a love that's faithful, I know. I guess I'm just a lucky so and so. I guess I'm just a lucky so and so. Thank you. And I am. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're the lucky ones. So thank you, sir. And thank you, Karen. I heard, keep our gaze a little higher throughout the day. And then Wayne tells us how. Just remember, you're a lucky so-and-so. So it's a perfect combination.